Cloud. Hey, everybody. What's up, people? Are you ready for an exciting day of art making and depth perception?
Maddie and Dara, Janaya.
How come I can't see everyone? I can't. Not that I can't see people, but I can't. I guess there is enough people.
Nobody wants to be seen today.
It's one of those.
Bye-bye.
One of those mornings. All right, there we go. Hey, Sebastian.
Hey.
So I have this cool croissant. I thought we would warm up and sketch it. Everybody's here. Hey guys. Yeah, and you don't have to show your camera. I was actually talking about like the squares. I couldn't see the squares. All right, let's go. I have like a ton of stuff. And I think it's gonna be a little bit more of a more sketchy, more like maybe just like do more things than less things, and maybe not like delve so deep into just not delve so deep. I guess that's what I'm thinking. So detailed, so refined. I kind of just want to sketch a little bit, and I have like a ton of I've got a bunch of hokusoi stuff, which is kind of where I'm going. This one I thought would be a fun warm-up though, because it's a croissant and it's not just a croissant. It also can light up. I got it from France. I was walking on the streets of Paris and I was like, those croissants look cool and they even light up. So then I paid money, probably too much money. But I don't know. I feel like at this point, this thing is like priceless. So I won't mention how many dollars I spent on it, but it was plenty. Should we sketch it lit up or should we sketch it? I feel like we have to sketch it lit up. Hold on, let's see. It's lit from inside. I mean, when have you ever seen a glowing stick of butter on the inside of a croissant? Croissant. Okay, sorry. That's recorded, Stacy. We remember to record.
And are you do you have your beret you will be wearing?
No, the closest thing to a beret I have is my leprechaun hat from St. Patrick's Day. I haven't taken that down yet. Okay, let's fire this up. So get your pencils. You could do color pencils. Some of you all that just got in, I was just saying that I think today it's gonna be like a little sketchy. We're gonna cover, I think, more ground. But be a little bit more superficial. So maybe not, like spend all class drawing like the ear on a rhinoceros or something. Okay, let's sketch. So I'm gonna do exactly what you guys are doing too. Like I could look, from up above, but then my angle is completely different. So I'm just gonna sketch off the screen. All right. There's this little vector. Maybe this is where it ends on this side. Maybe this is where it ends on that side. I see this big triangle. Oh my gosh. So croissants are like really flaky. So I don't know what is in. I'm not even meaning to do this, but see how I'm doing lots of extra lines? That almost mimics the puff pastry of it, which is interesting. I didn't even mean it. So I was just looking for this large triangle. But I guess the way that the puff pastry kind of leaned, we're seeing more of this side. And then we have the broad top side. That's not the direction I want to use. Let me erase that. So I guess what I'm saying is that there's like this thicker part, which the light doesn't penetrate as much, and it's flanked by two lighter parts, which is kind of interesting. So I can think about the silhouettes. Look at that little middle section. Cool. So I don't know how I'm going to make that light up. I guess I could use colored pencil. I have a yellow close by. I'm going to use it. Oh no, all I have is this. Oh wow, it's a gel pen. So part of being a sketcher or being an artist or being not an artist necessarily, but like part of draftsmanship is it's taking notations for yourself, so that you know what you need to do when it's time to paint. Look at that beautiful form. It looks like a little staircase that goes up and then it spirals across like the like almost like yeah, it's a spiral. I mean, this is rolled. It's rolled dough. I love these little waves in here, S curves. You know,
If you,
what's
if you
that?
didn't tell us it was a croissant, I would have assumed it was a seashell.
Ah,
That would have been a nice it's a nice seashell too. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, a lot of times when I'm sketching seashells, I think of enclosures because they're perfectly symmetrical. Do you see how like it almost feels like there's a ball in there, like it's almost like a tennis ball shape. That's weird. Okay, so not weird. I'm just one of the devices I think about is shapes, you know, and I think about curved lines and straight lines. Another device as I'm sketching, I think about is enclosures. So I try to see if I can find a subterranean form, you know, that can like link up multiple parts of the picture. And you know, that's interesting. And I think about that a lot when I'm sketching like actual organic forms. So yeah, so like when you mentioned the seashell, it got me thinking about enclosures, and then I was thinking, well, there's curvilinear enclosures, which is like this oval, and then there's like trapezoidal or rectilinear. So there's this left side kind of can have a relationship to that right side. Everything is, once it's kind of imprecise. You're like taking this dough and then you're rolling it and you're grabbing another piece of dough, a triangular dough, and then rolling it and then getting another one, rolling it, arranging them on your, it's kind of like, in a way, it's sort of like pottery, or like, even like paint glazing pottery. Whenever I glaze pottery, there's like this freedom because you don't know really what it's going to look like. You can have like a glazed red. Like if you see what red looks like before it's fired, it's like nothing. It looks like some muted brown like piece of like brick or something. And then when it gets fired, it's brilliant and beautiful. So you can try to control what happens in the oven, both in the kiln or even in the oven. But really, it's like it's this whole it's the not knowing, which is kind of exciting. And it's the irregularity too. So it's like the theme and variation. Like they're all going to be about the same size because you're using pieces of dough that are the same size, but then how they puff up and how they cook is all a little bit different.
Yours looks like the planet Saturn.
Thanks. Thank you. Even though it's lit from within, so how would you like? I'm like trying to think of ways that. Oh my gosh, sorry, I just freaked out. I just found the highlighter. So like I could make the highlighter come out. How am I going to make this thing look like it's lit internally? I mean, it may not be possible, but it's fun and playful. There's a light on the inside of this thing, and even if I did show somebody else this drawing, no one's gonna know what it is. I mean, but who's gonna guess? Oh yeah, it's a croissant that's been glazed in a special plastic that makes it not ever decompose, and then they put a light on the inside. It's like such a random object, but that's why it's kind of fun for a warm up. There are definitely, in my mind, I was thinking I gotta add lights, because it is illuminated. But perhaps that's not maybe what I need. Maybe what I need is some darker tones, some darker notes, and that can make the light parts stand out more. That's cool. There's also slight cast shadows. All right, so Stacy, I'm gonna give you. Stacy always requests the 2-minute warning. So I might give like It's 10:41. So maybe at 10:45 we'll stop. Maybe this will be the 4-minute warning.
Okay, I appreciate
Then-
that.
Yeah. So there's the light that's in the house, like the light that's up above, this is a solid object. So it is throwing shadow onto the ground. The light's coming from up here. So get a little bit of a shadow here, a little bit of a cast shadow here. I could blend it out with my finger. And this end feels like it's darker. So maybe I'll do a second layer of hatch marks. The unique part is that the glow, there is light that's coming, beaming in here. Wow, that's cool. So this is how I'm gonna depict this little glow. Maybe actually, it looks so warm. This is the yellow
I
light.
would like a little
Oh.
chocolate croissant right now. Thank you.
Are you hungry? I was told croissants were really fattening,
Yeah, well, they are.
but I don't think they may not be as bad for you as.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Are they really?
Really.
All right, well, I don't eat them that much, only on special occasions, like when I'm at the Louvre.
Well, when in Paris, how could you not?
Just if like I just don't want to stop it, but
Ah,
the end is super cool. I'm trying to get it in focus. Look at that spiral, and it's totally out of proportion because it's all zoomed in. But this is the side view. It's amazing. And this was, in fact, a real croissant. Look at that. That looks like a shell right there.
yeah, it's
Oh,
beautiful.
a shell. It's upside down. Yes. Drawing with my eraser. Let's do some finishing touches. The next piece I want to sketch, I haven't studied really hard. I just actually opened to the book right before class. And it's a mountain range. It's like low mountains leading up to Mount Fuji. And there's only like 3 things in the picture. There's like trees, and then there's like these hills, and then there's Mount Fuji. So there's a lot of somewhat repetition. So we might kind of
Focus on me.
we might try to find inexpensive ways of communicating a lot of ideas in a short amount of time. This little nub, I just noticed this little nub down here. I wonder if it was still there during the last. Yeah, I guess it was there. I just didn't see it. Puff pastry. I haven't even done any blending. Might be helpful. Soften it up. Definitely soften up this shadow. Oh gosh, it makes it look so much more like a shadow than those harsh lines. So I'm just using my tortillon. It's just a regular tortillon. And I'm doing the best I can.
Well, that's all one can ask.
It's 10:45.
Ah.
Let's move on. All right, it's only fun if you really do, move quickly. And the other thing I have, I cleaned up my desk last night, and I have like not thousands, but I have probably 50 pages of fresh paper.
Oh,
I'm like,
Trevor.
really, I know. I put them all together. Big ones, small ones, all different kinds. All right. That's all you get with the croissant. Croissant.
Croissant.
Yes. Yes, party people. All right. So you'd be surprised how quickly this thing will go. So when I said there was only three things, there's like the mountain, Mount Fuji, there's trees, and then there are these low hills. I kind of stand with that. There's also a little bit of the sky. And and then there's of course like the texture on these low hills. So there are symbols that are different. So like there are tree trunks plus the trees. But we're going to sketch where we kind of we're trying to get to the whole without having to draw every single tree. Like you can always come back, and once you get like the spirit of the composition, you can always come back and finish it. So this is sketching where you're trying to see things, not necessarily trying to make beautiful art. Okay, well, here's this one arch linking up this low hill, and then there's a steep hill.
Excuse me, Trevor,
Yeah.
can you please point out where that low arch is?
Yeah, I was doing the top rims. See a little top
Okay.
rim right there?
Thank you.
Yeah, there's this little top arch linking them all up, and there's the
Yep.
side of the hill there, and there's the side of this hill here. Cool. Whoa, there's another small mountain range. Okay, cool. So I'm seeing a low mountain range here, a mid-level mountain range, and then there's a third mini mountain range before you get up to the top of Mount Fuji. So this little third one, this is one, this will be two, this is three. Because I added that third one, now Mount Fuji moves over, which is legit. Wow. Cool. All right. So this is where you get into this thing called aerial perspective. And aerial perspective means that the lower you are in the rectangle, the closer the object is to you. So if I start down here, this hill is in front of this hill, and then this hill is in front of that hill, and then that one's in front of that one, which is in front of this one, and then this guy is in front of this guy, which is in front of this guy. So whether Hokusai was looking at this mountain, at these hills, was copying them exactly, I don't know. Or whether he was just even in a sense like sketching from memory. Wow. All right, cool. So how do you make these objects look like they're in front of one another? Well, you can add some trees. So like this is maybe I'll put the bottom of my rectangle here. I can add some trees. And I'm coming up with a symbol, a quick way of sketching trees as he did. Looks like they're all pines. And they look like they're all triangles too. So the middle of the pine tree is the tallest. I know it's a little cliche, but that's not always the case with every tree.
Middle of the pine tree is the tallest.
Yeah. So I'll just put a sample one down here. So you get the tallest part, and then you get this
Oh,
triangle.
you mean the widest? The middle of the tree.
The tallest part of every tree is the middle.
Oh, excuse me. So sorry. Yes, of course.
It's okay. And it is kind of logical, but sometimes the words don't always compute.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
And I'm also looking at I love this little mountain range in here, but it looks to me like he's using perspective to create a sense of depth of the trees. Now, it's interesting because these trees are the same size as these, which look like they're the same size as these. Where the trees really start to get smaller seems to be basically at the base of Mount Fuji. So I would argue that like all of the trees in our first two mountain ranges, are big and small within the same range. Yes, there are small trees, but then there's are trees that are further away that are actually bigger. So there's going to be a range of, say, large, medium, and small. So there's a large one, here's a medium one, here's a small one, and then maybe do a really small one. That becomes like a little vocabulary for trees. There's all of this texture, these little specks. I would even argue that they're stippling, and stippling is just when you make repeated dots. So one of the ways that, and I think I've talked about it in this class, but I'll use a little sample sheet. Give me a sample sheet. That's not fancy. Here's one. So one of the ways that you can make stippling, not whenever you make stipples and you just put a whole bunch of dots, they wound up taking on an order, whether you want them to or not. So you may want to do clusters of, say, 20 and then do another cluster of another 20. That's fine. But they tend to repeat. And the way you can get them to not repeat is to put the stipples in spiral motions. So I would spiral my dots like I'm spiraling there. So that I have actual spirals, but then instead of connecting the lines, I'm spiraling the dots. And then as you spiral, you look for the open places. So that's twofold. Like stippling is two ways. You spiral your dots, and then you almost compose the dots so they're like spread out naturally. All right. Do you think these are bushes up here? Right when I think there's not another thing, then I see another thing. There seems to be like these floating larger dots, which are in between the dots and the trees. So I'm assuming they're like bushes. Maybe like little foliage bursts. So it's 10:53. I think we should like shoot for, this like 10:05. We'll move on. So whatever you can get done, we can get done in the next 11 minutes. We'll see how it unfolds. There's, once you have our little program here, which we have foliage blasts, we have, the stippling, and we have our trees to scale, small, medium, and large. And we have our hills, our layered hill contours. That is the key of mark making right here. It's not that much. It's like, it's scary, not much. The only part I'm saying I'm going to add is that there are those light tree trunks. So you can do the triangle of the tree trunk, triangle, triangle, triangle. It's probably even that is so regular, but there is like this little wall of trees there. So if I have my trunk, I can make my treetop and my evergreen foliage on either side of the trunk. I'll do a big tree, small tree, medium tree, really small tree. I love how there's this row of trees on both. There's this row that basically divides our first mountain range from our second mountain range. That's cool. Low hills, low hills, low hills. One of the themes on this left side seems to be the S curve. So on the right, you're getting all of these like the sides of the hill that run like, little arches, little shoulders. And then these look like almost like ramps. It starts with a crest and then it flows down. Arch, 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 and then S curve flow. That's neat. Arch, arch, arch. Look at that one. That one actually, the top one up here actually breaks the plane of Mount Fuji. So there's that. S curves down. Now, this was my my false Fuji. So then it comes down on that side. And Mount Fuji seems to have a little bit of the line is a little bit of a trimmer to it. It's like a little bumpy. Neat. I wonder how that goes. Is it up and down or is it thick and thin? I think it's just up and down, up and down. And then, yeah. So there's this miniature mountain range. They're just, the humps are smaller. The hills have S curves, and then the trees are smaller. I mean, these trees up here are like miniature, which is so cute. And they're not miniature, they're just further away. I would say that none of this is actually really natural. I mean, could you imagine how much bigger these trees would have to be, the ones that are lower? But maybe not. I don't know. I mean, Mount Fuji is a phenomenon. I mean, it's a natural wonder. It is so important to the Japanese people. It has, these drawings are like 200 years old. Maybe not quite 200, but almost 200 years old. And the mountain top has changed in that time. But there's so many stories and folklore and art that has been made, poetry, music, and I've never been. That's the other wild thing. I mean, I looked at it on GPS, and it shows up. I think I say Mount Fuji a lot, so it shows up on my social media feeds, mainly because I love Hokusoi. So the last point I was gonna make is there's the last little section of mark making code is some of the rocks that are on Mount Fuji itself. Do you see how they make these little triangles? Man. So I just drew that triangle, these small series of triangles, so you could see that those dots are arranged that way. Who knows? They must be different rock formations than what's in the low hills, I would imagine. Definitely, it's almost like a mark making vocabulary that's right in between this foliage burst of the bushes versus the dots on the hills. So I think it is, the property, whatever the texture of Mount Fuji is, I think is probably different than everything else, mainly because it's like above the tree line. This is where there's an elevation where certain plant life can't survive. And Mount Fuji is definitely above that. Especially these rock crumbles down here. Cool. So it looks like the mountain gets even crumblier as it gets to the bottom. So this background here is not low hill. That's the base of Mount Fuji. So that could be like, you know, volcanic rubble. And that is the backdrop for some of our final layers of trees. I think you also find too, which is interesting because these are woodblock prints. So the way that Hokusoi's hand worked, you know, right-handed, when I make a tree, I'm going to make a larger one here. It's easier in one sense for me to make the trees on one side versus the foliage that's on the other side. You know, the way your hand moves, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, you know, the left side might be easier or the right side might be easier. So this mark goes like this. So then the other one is like this way. I'm like angling down. This is the natural movement of my right hand. Whereas this angle, I'm like kind of pushing up and it's a little bit more clumsy. So these sides are clean. These sides are a little bit rougher. And I feel like I'm picking up a little bit of that in Hokusoi's mark making for the trees. Another quick note, this is like, you know, this is like me kind of like just nerding out a little bit, but the marks that Hokusoi is using to define the mountaintops, like the humps that I'm showing here, I believe that the lines actually belong to the background. So if I draw this hump here, so hill, the mountain really is in front of that. So I'm almost silhouetting the hills. So they're all light hills up against slightly darker backgrounds, I believe. And you can imagine, you know, the amount of hours and like a slightly different frame of mind that we would require to, you know, make a finished piece out of this. But man, it's fun to just, you know, it's almost like artistic grazing. You know, it's like we're like looking for berries in the woods. We're not cooking up like a 5-star meal. I'm just looking for berries. And then when you take this knowledge home, then you can kind of go a little deeper. And you know, copying other artists is so healthy, but it's really important to you know, learn from them, but then go out into nature and, you know, create your own compositions. You can use practically the exact same notions, but when you're directly engaging with nature, you're directly arranging your trees, you know, as you're experiencing them. And that is the art. That is when art is happening. Oh yeah, look at that. So I did some of these dark lines. They look strange and you know, they unnatural. And he, I think, you know, blends out those lines, so to speak, by populating them with those shrubs. So wherever there's a dark line on a hill, that line tends to blend into the, you know, the darkness behind it, whether it be trees or these you know, these bushes. And the stippling, you know, kind of remains independent. It's kind of like free floating. It's almost like filling it in with a color. He doesn't have color, you know, on this particular print, so he's got to fill in the area. And he does it with the stippling to show texture and to just show that there's something there. It's not just like, you know, over here, there's really nothing here on either side, but there's a steady, consistent treatment from, you know, the bottom right all the way to the top left. So, you know, if I were to like, you know, frame out this area, you know, everything in between these two lines, you know, would be, you know, it would be addressed. And it's kind of framed out by the, you know, by the empty space. And you could call that mist, I mean, there's a side of me that wants this to be like, clouds, like these are, this is a clouded area that's kind of, covering it up. I don't know if that's what his intentions were. All right, it's 11:06. How'd you guys do with this one? Does it look crazy like mine? Mine's like all over the place.
Should we do a show?
Yeah, let's take a quick break because we just flew through that.
Yeah.
Anybody want to show first? I will pin. Actually, Sebastian, I have you up at the top. You want to show it real quick?
I decided to sketch just something I had in my camera roll.
Nice.
That is the Ponte Salario by Hubert Robert. It's from the
Hubert Robert. I'm trying.
Hubert, can you bring that a little bit
I stopped
closer?
the share.
Good, right there.
I can't.
Thank you.
There
Nice.
it goes. Oh,
Very
excellent.
nice.
I love that. I love that piece. I love Hubert Robert too. Ellie, I got you next. Wow.
Oh, nice page. I like that stream of color. That green.
That is a nice page.
Yeah.
Stacy, I got you next. You want to show it?
Oh, sure.
I got Dara and then Madeline after you, Stacy.
Yeah, I am a little slow, but
Look at your croissant. Oh, wait.
croissant.
Did you start from the top, did you start from Mount Fuji and then work down? Did you start from the front to back lightly and then started from the back to front?
I did both.
Yeah.
My first mark was right here where you started.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went here. Right
That
there.
looks great. Looks great.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. All right, Dara, are you up for it? Yes. So cool. Oh my goodness, that's cool. Yeah, I feel like that's really like the side of a mountain. It's
Yeah, I like that.
side of a mountain.
You made that a little bit more
rather than
narrow.
like yeah, I love it. Madeline, I got you. Place the pen.
This is kind of crazy, but this is what I got.
I know.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, it looks great. Yeah, you've got your foundation, and the trees are gonna, when you add the trees, they're gonna look great.
Like that shadow you put in under the croissant.
The croissant shadow. All right, Janaya, how about you? Croissant. Yes.
A little closer. You've got that light right behind. There you go. Freeze it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And your pencil, so whenever you're using like harder pencils, they make lighter lines. And they're great for personal use. It's not showing up as dark on the Zoom, but I mean, I can see it perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got that big arc leading from like the very bottom and boomeranging all the way to the top of Mount Fuji. That looks awesome. Okay, thank you. Jackson. I think I've got
yeah, I'm not quite done with mine, but now this is my croissant.
Hold that nice and still, Jackson.
in it. There it is.
Good, good.
Here's my Mount Fuji. I'm still like adding the tree line and stuff.
It looks like it's exploding. It looks like it's volcanic eruption.
I took a picture, so I'll probably be drawing this for a while today.
Good. Sweet. And then Simone, how about you? Where'd she go?
Come back, Simone.
I don't know what I can't see it in my gallery.
There she is. There we go. Yes.
Really?
Oop.
Oh, there it goes.
There you go. Nice.
Place pin. Yeah, it's a nice croissant.
Yeah.
I like the varied
Thank you.
textures. It makes sense. All right, Noah, were you here the whole time?
I missed a good part of that. My computer died and I couldn't find my charger.
Okay.
I did not have
Um,
it done.
No, it's all good. All good. Did I get everybody then? Do you want
I
to
think
show any,
so.
you want to show anything? Did you do the croissant?
I have like half a croissant and I would not like to show that.
I got half of a croissant. I got full, so I had to stop. I could tell there was too many calories. All right, sweet. Yes. We're playing. Go to screen share. I think you're still pinned, but I'm gonna go to the screen share. Advanced. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to keep working on this. I do, but I don't. I do, but then I don't. All right. Then there's another one that I was taunting, another landscape that I was taunting my adults with, which I think we should do. Oh, there's a shipwreck. Oh my gosh. All right, we're gonna at least do half of this one. We might be able to finish this one. All right, we're gonna do the one on the left, which is a total change, or like it's slight deviate, like not a total change, but like pretty different than what we just did, because it's largely like tonal. And I'll explain to you the major differences, and then we'll sketch it.
That is stunning.
I know you were gonna. I knew you were gonna love it.
Oh my
Stacey.
goodness.
I didn't
Love
pick it. I didn't pick it for you, Stacy, but I'm gonna say that the Angels did.
Ah,
Okay.
I'm a happy
so-
girl.
So one of the things that is special about Hokusoi, which is one of the lessons that everybody needs to take away, is that his like color palette was really limited. And for example, these woodblock prints, do you see the warm of the earth? So there's like a warm neutral. So the land is like an orange, but it's very, very faint, very, very neutral. It's almost like tea, like a tea color or coffee. And then he used the white of the paper. So it's almost like he only had 3 tones. He had black, he had the gray of like this kind of like, the night sky. And I'm going to say that this is a nocturnal painting. I'm going to say that's a full moon versus a sun. You guys can draw it however you want. I see a moon though. So in order to draw the moon, he did the tone around the moon, which is amazing. And then he did, earth, which is the brown, and then he did textures on this little, peninsula. I'm not going to call it an island. I'm going to call it a peninsula because if you look at the whole, composition, believe it or not, it's a diptych, which means that there are two pieces that are separate but are designed to be one. So this is, more architectural. This is like the land. This is like, fields back here. Housing, a coastal town. And then this is like this little peninsula out here where, I would assume like the fishing boats are. So it's going to be, if you have your tortillion, it's going to be a large tortillion kind of display. We're going to be able to show the layers of the coastal line in the same way that the hills led up to Mount Fuji. We're going to go, aerial perspective with the boats and the hills. So aerial perspective means that the boats that are lower on the picture are also closer to us. They don't have any shadows. They don't have any reflections. They don't have any real differential in scale. I mean, you could make an argument that the one that's furthest away is a little bit smaller, but is it just a smaller boat? It's not necessarily the same boat as this being further off in the distance. So I'm gonna sketch the whole, and then I'm gonna zoom in. We're gonna sketch the whole, basically getting the moon, some of these misty clouds. Where does the sky end? Where does the water begin? On this half, we don't really know, which is awesome. So the last point, the point when we were reviewing the other piece, you guys are going to want to put your Mount Fuji into a rectangle. That was like the only thing not the only thing, but there was like, that was a one major point that I didn't make about the last piece is, you've got to define the rectangle. And in the beginning, it's harder to do that. Here, it's going to be really important because it's like, we don't even have a horizon line. Like, I guess the horizon line might be back here, if you look at this distant landscape, but it could be even higher.
Mhm.
There's maybe this band where the white clouds go all the way across from like, side to side. Maybe that's the horizon. Don't know. And it's not necessarily, we may not necessarily need to know. All right, so my moon. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing this one. Stacy, pumped? Be pumped.
Yeah, I am.
I'm gonna lay in a moon right here with a circle.
So
And
for those who don't know, I really enjoy Hokusoi, and I really disliked landscapes of any kind for a very long time. And it really wasn't until Mr. Trevor very gently, he didn't even persuade, there was a willingness that evolved through Mr. Trevor's teaching modalities. And I got on board, and I continue to really enjoy Hokusoi more than ever now, because I now appreciate and enjoy landscape.
oh, thanks for saying that, Stace. Yeah, landscapes are
Sure.
I think about landscapes a lot as which I don't think this is how Hokusoi saw it, but he enjoyed drawing frogs because of the frogs. You know what I mean? He also enjoyed frogs as being part of a narrative. So objects can exist by themselves, and then they can also be part of a larger series of events in a story, or a narrative. And landscapes are kind of the same way. Like, landscapes can just exist on their own for their own reason, for just because they're beautiful. They can also be a stage set for a backdrop of a scene of a story. So landscapes predominantly, historically, at least in the West, have been kind of like stage sets, where there's a story that's happening, and the landscape is what describes that, like Jesus being tempted in the desert, or Napoleon exonerating like the leper colony, or there's these stories about people that happen in certain places, and that's what the landscape is for. But they can stand alone too. And there's people that Claude Lorraine was probably the most famous one, who probably arguably did it the best. And he made landscapes that were there's Christ and the disciples are in there, and then they're also just trees and sky, because trees and sky are beautiful. Anyway, I didn't mean to be talking and not drawing at the same time. So with my graphite, and hopefully you guys have figured this out, if you have a harder pencil, you may want to switch to something softer, like a B, a 2B, a 3B, a 4B. I'm using the mechanical pencil with the Bic mechanical pencil, and it does blend smoothly. That's one of the things I really like about these pencils, is that they stay sharp, for most of the time. But if you need to blend, they do, and they don't like make the they don't like scrape into the paper and damage the paper the way other harder pencils do. I feel like they have a really nice balance between the hardness and softness. And the softer the pencil, the easier it is to blend. The harder the pencil, the longer the it stays sharp, because it's less pigments coming out. So I just decided to I didn't have like necessarily a strategy. It's 11:20, so I'm thinking maybe we can take this to like 11:35, maybe 11:35, 11:40, something like that. I just wanted to anchor my picture with the moon. I think Saturday was the new moon. When the new moon is, it's oriented so that it's it doesn't pick up. We don't see any of the sun on the moon. And this is the opposite. So this is a full moon. If we broke the picture down, I'm going to say into quarters. This top quarter is going to be the moon, the night sky, and kind of the introduction of some of the clouds. Then I would say the second section is this, the clouds of the sky kind of merging with the clouds over the water. And then the third section, which is, the dominant part, which is the band of, water with the boats, and then the land as the peninsula that has, our foliage and maybe some basic trees. And then the bottom is the, the water and the clouds, but no sky. So there's this larger transition area. And where there's largely, one tone up against another tone, like this. That looks good. So the tone, you have the moon, which is one tone up against the tone of the night sky. Then we have this small cloud, like this little finger that's like peeking in. Yeah, this is a sketch, but it's so much about tone, where the last one was all about mark making. It's a nice little contrast in gestural exploration. So this was one finger. We're going to do two fingers. One finger was the large one, and then a smaller one. Nice. And then the last little line that we're doing is going to basically be the division. It's a line that goes all the way from the right side to the left side. And I'm going to argue that's the end of, section 1. There's like kind of a playful inversion. So if this was a light finger up against a dark background, where section number 2 begins, is a dark finger up against the light background. So I'm just getting oriented, and I'm gonna again I'm gonna continue my little shading exercise. And these lines that I used to differentiate the clouds from the night sky, those lines will not exist at the end. Even within the sketch, I'm going to blend those lines out as best I can. So I'm just, and as I'm applying my pigment, I'm anticipating the union between these, the tone of the body of the sky into the tone of the line, differentiating the sky from the clouds. And I just have to kind of, since I began with the relationship between the sky and the moon, I can kind of anticipate how much pigment, how much light, how heavy or how light I need to lay my general tone, so that I can get a smooth, consistent light gray mist. And that's the stuff where it's like, it's hard to teach that, because it's, everybody's pencil is going to be a little bit different. Everybody's like, how heavy they choose to make their marks is going to be different. And, lights and darks are relative. So I can have, even if I made my sky super dark, say I was using charcoal and I made like a deep dark sky, that would be fine if it's, consistent with, the rest of the tones. And that might be one thing that you do too. Maybe the night sky is a lot darker than the water, than the sea. Oh my gosh. So cute. I think those clouds are so funny. Not funny, but they're like small, medium, large. And then it goes, and then look at this whole, the way this one is framed off. Anyway, it's just such a nice, he found a pleasing way of relating, having them all exist having them exist in a unity, but then also have them varied enough that it makes it interesting. And nature does the same thing. Hold on, I'll let you guys keep going on this. I'll come back, but I found this leaf yesterday, because it rained hard, and we have this maple tree, and one of the branches, the little cluster of leaves broke off, and there was like a big leaf, a medium leaf, a small leaf, and then like a leaf bud, all on the same little twig. And
Aw.
the progression of nature is what he's able to harness. It's like, is he looking at that exactly the way it is? No, he's actually looking at nature and how nature actually its natural growth pattern, and then he's using that progression, that organic property with the clouds. And that's it's like a super, it's almost like it's like a super art skill. Hold on, let me go get it so I can prove it. Hopefully bounce. Don't wake up.
And just as a reminder, especially when you come down to the boats, you want to really keep your graphite super, super sharp. Well, you want to do that anyway, but you'll just find it so much easier, especially if you're working really small. Okay.
So I had a feeling I was going to use this for the lesson today, but I couldn't. I was like, I didn't quite know how. But of course, Hokusoi's clouds did it. So it's a little sad because the thing broke off, but I can arrange these. I might
Oh,
actually pull them off so you could see. And I had this inside drying out.
mhm.
I think Kristen saw it, threw it back inside. So I recovered it from the back porch. This poor guy. I thought about putting it in water.
Mhm.
I should put it in water. Okay, you can't see it. This is the biggest one. And then there's the second largest, and then the third largest. Oh wait, maybe I can put this guy over here. Look at these brothers. So these guys are, look at the size of this guy and the size of this guy.
Mhm.
I wonder if these guys are These guys are confused.
Cousins.
All right, there's these three are on par. 1, 2, 3. And then there's this little guy. Oops. This little one, and then this teeny one who's starting to develop down here. And then these are just the buds. Move this over.
Oh, got it.
Those two little buds.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some kind of there's a design progression. Well, I bet you it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Anyway, so big leaf, middle leaf, small leaf, big cloud, middle cloud, small cloud. And the same thing's going to happen up here. So there's like two that are similar. There's one, these two are similar. These two are similar. And there's one large one down there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I see a connection. Definitely with the clouds upstairs though. 1, 2, 3. Big, medium, small. Yeah, that's what it is. It skips the beat. It may have been a longer, larger explanation than it needed to be. This little the dark finger that comes off here. What do you think that's? You think that's island? You think that's like an island that's way off in the distance? It could be.
Oh. Huh.
So also you have like a gazing direction. So these white clouds are looking to the moon. Okay. And then you have like the inverse of that. If these are looking to the left, then you have your I would say it's the ocean, you know, the dark ocean. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the ocean is now looking to the right. So these guys were looking to the left. Now these are light clouds up against a dark background, whereas this becomes dark ocean up against light clouds.
Yeah, but don't the boats have to be, aren't in the foreground, excuse me, I'll start over. In the foreground where the boats are on the white, isn't that white now water?
Yeah, you're right. So what is that? Is that, oh, that's interesting, Stacy. Good call. Now I'm thinking, I wonder if that water is moonlight reflection. See what I mean? Like these are white clouds up
Yes,
here.
I do.
And then this
do.
is like moonlight on the water. I mean, could that be true?
That could be true.
Oh my gosh, 11:35. Wow, groovy. Okay, so check this out. So there's this little echo right here. There's this the dark finger that's hanging off the side.
Mhm.
Look at how the landscape kind of repeats that. So if you were to look at this, there's this dark finger that goes off, generally speaking. This is the peninsula that's actually in focus. Now, you don't get any details on the one above. And here you get basically repetition of the larger shape of that finger. So there's a flat bottom and then there's curved tops. So you have a flat bottom, curved top, flat bottom, curved top, flat bottom, curved top, flat bottom, curved top, flat bottom, curved top.
So, Trevor, in the reference in front of you, I can't see because I'm looking at the reference of the reference, but are there any shadows or is it just a complete, like for instance, not on yours, but on Hokusoy's, is it reading as one hue as dark and another hue as light? Or are there hues within the dark and hues within the light?
There we
Oh, wow.
go. Yeah, so that was an awesome question, which I didn't notice. Look at see how the gray has the white spots in it? I don't think that was necessarily intentional. I think that is how it printed. So whenever you have ink on a block or ink on a plate, the way that it attaches to the paper is always a little bit different. There's always going to be variations on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all that's the best I can do with that. But I hear you, and I think I'm going to do, I'm going to fold my paper. So you guys can see that. It'd be totally wrong if you guys could not see this detail. Yeah, there we go. So if you guys were working on like the shapes of the rest of the sky, you just got to put it on hold for a second, so that we can then show how this works. All right, so there's the rocks that I was saying, and like the way that the water comes up to the edge of the peninsula, it's expressed sort of with, almost like a level, like it's got to be flat. It's got to be flatter at least, because the water, the water finds equilibrium. So we know that these boats, are going to be placed. Part of the boat is under the water. So the only part of the boat you see is the part that's above the water. So every boat has a flat bottom, and then it looks like it has a mast, and then it looks like it has some kind of like string architecture. And I mean, I know I'd said this before, but and I may have misspoke, but I think now I'm second guessing, and I think there's shadow. I think that's shadow. Like, look at that. Like, you have the shadow from the boat, then you have the boat itself, you have the mast, and then you have some lines. When I say
Oh, and
lines, I'm talking about rope lines, like actual rope.
interesting.
And it's the same, it's the same, these are the same boats over and over again. So it looks like there's like a triangular wedge, a mast, and then some lines, and then a shadow. The body of the boat, mast, cast shadow.
So do you think the moonlight could throw or cast that great of a shadow, or only the
I
sun?
do.
You do.
And that's
Okay.
that's what annoys me the most about the photographs of the Earth from space. It's like you go out on a full moon and there's like hardcore shadows. I mean, intense shadows. So if the Earth is a sphere and it's receiving light from the moon, like, why can't you see a sphere with reflected light? I teach spheres with reflected light, like, for a living. Like, why can't I get a photo of the Earth with reflected light from the moon? That's what I want, and I can't have it for some reason. All right, now I hadn't seen this before, but that's why we sketch these things. The land is divided into warm and cool, and the warm area is totally sparse with its foliage and its this kind of speckled clusters of growth that seem to be on the land, and then even showing up like kind of in like the flatter marshy areas next to the land.
Mhm.
And then the division is here. So the heavy populated shrub area or tree, there's not even a line. Look at how there's not even a line that separates the top. There's a there's a black line that separates the top of the rocky part, and then it's just a kind of an ambiguous stippling, which is so
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
when I first saw it, I saw that as the foreground of that landmass as being, a beach, sand, rock area, and everything behind it as a cityscape in the distance. But you're saying it's all foliage, right?
Yeah, I am. And the reason,
Okay.
and one of the reasons I'm saying that is because this picture by itself, it's hard to get a sense of scale.
Yeah,
How big people are. And then but if you zoom out and you see the whole diptych, it does become clearer.
got it.
And I'll do that here in a second. Just got to finish my boats. Yeah, they become very almost like shorthand. I love that these little boats are so little back here, because they do give you that sense of depth. And I wasn't sure if they were small boats, but now I'm pretty sure that they are in fact smaller boats. They're distant boats, that's what I meant to say. Cool. Here's a soft orange. I have this horrible, I got this really bad set of pencils. And I'm trying to throw them away, but Kristen wouldn't let me throw them away. This is actually not one of them. This is the Sakuras. All right, we're zooming back out.
So can we have time for a share before we bid adieu?
Yeah.
Good.
So that's the whole, it's going to get focused.
Oh, okay.
There it goes. Okay, so wow. Okay, so look at that. I didn't even make the connection here. So this dark thing
Yeah.
comes over to the other side.
Mhm.
This one traverses it. So there's almost like this larger left, right. See that zigzag that happens through the entire composition, helping to bring your eye back. That's nice. So here are the buildings. You can see how those are layered. They kind of bring you up the coastline.
Wow. So what might read as clouds turn to water.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
What's that?
Really cool.
So I made the point at the end last time. One of the things about these wood blocks too is, one of the things about Hokuso, I think in general, is he's so unapologetic about his framing. It's like he just like, look how dark. You see how black the edge of the block is. Really
Mhm.
bold, really bold. Let's zoom out even further so we can kind of imagine the entire rectangle. So I'm intended on doing a little bit more, but I got seduced by the moon, as I always do.
Saw that coming.
You did,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I'm doing some spirals, and I don't mind the and I can tell that the water part here that is going to be, probably darker than my sky, and I think I'm okay with it, because I want it, even though he's doing a woodblock print, so like it's the same gray kind of evenly rolled out, but if he could do variations, he might have, and increasing the contrast between the light and the dark will pull that part of the picture closer to us. So I am tweaking the gray part so that it's in higher contrast and it comes closer. It's closest because it's lowest on the picture. So automatically, because of aerial perspective, it's the bottom part of the picture is closer to us. But I can further emphasize that point by increasing the contrast. The higher the contrast, things tend to come forward. The lower the contrast, they tend to recede. And that would be a principle that you could use with the boats. So, I mean, I could maybe make these boats on the bottom, very stark, intense, solid black shapes. And these two boats will come in front of these two boats. And then if I say I lightened these boats in the background, maybe make them like a softer dark and, lower contrast and smaller, then they will have this illusion of going back into space. Even though we're all working on the same flat piece of paper. So there's one, the first landscape was, kind of in it like a solid objects moving back into space, versus water and air moving, receding. And I think it's neat to kind of show that aerial perspective works both, regardless of what material you're using. And it is kind of, specific to our planet, as well as our, position on the planet in terms of being oriented, being taller, looking down. It is such a wonderful place to live. And art makes, I feel like it teaches you to appreciate it more and to connect with people on a, through time. Like, again, completely different Eastern culture 200 years ago. And it's like he's sitting next to us.
Oh, I really like your mark making for your shadows on the boat.
I'm happy. I'm about to cry. I love it so much.
Yeah. That's really sweet.
It holds up kind of, I mean, and I don't like the fact, I mean, I had the intention of making it darker. I thought that would be good. That's not that bad. It's just not quite as, what if I softened the, well, that might be nicer. So even though it's a lot darker, if I lighten the contrast gets reduced.
Sorry.
All right. No, that's okay. Was that you, Stace?
Yeah. Sorry about
Was that paw?
Yes.
I knew it. Where are you guys going to lunch this week?
Where do you think? Well, did I tell you that he's
been branching out?
Well, downstairs to Grounds and whatever
Oh,
it's
gardens
called.
and grounds, gardens and
Yeah.
grounds.
Which is a big,
Big
big
step.
deal,
Big
you
step
know,
for them.
sometimes.
So I have this like this little dark glow around my moon. So I think I want to attempt to blend that out. But I may not be able to do that without actually erasing or adding more.
Yeah, I'm finding that my night,
Yeah.
as opposed to my lighter or water, because I made my boats and landscapes so dark, need to be a little bit darker.
Hmm.
Just a little bit.
Can we see yours those days?
Mine,
Yeah.
sure.
Actually, guys, I'm hopefully you took take the next minute or something to take a screenshot if you need it. If you need me to zoom in, I can do that too. But I think I'm going to stop the share so we can have a quick look at what everybody's doing. Bow, 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 bow. Okay, stop the share. Stacy Mednick, crushing it in art.
Oh, thank you.
Oh wow. Okay, so what were you saying? I'm so glad
That-
that's a great size, by the way. Very
Oh, thank
manageable.
you. Because I made the boats and the landscape so dark,
Mm,
I think that I had to go back, like, and I darkened this up a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit. I think this was a little too light.
maybe. You could be, it would read as being intentional if your frame, the black line around the frame was as
Was
dark
dark.
as the lines inside. Or
Yeah,
even,
I just
or
needed to,
even thicker and darker.
yeah,
think,
I just needed to
I
get
believe-
a rectangle on the page.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying is I believe the subtle values of your grays. And I think you would believe them more too if the frame, the rectangle frame that you did, if you just darkened that whole rectangle, it will hold up because that's what he's doing. I mean, his works. And the only difference between yours and his at the moment is having that black silhouette of the around the frame.
Oh, so go into that right away. Just do
I
it.
think you should. I think you
Okay.
should. And then
Okay.
you can make decisions from there.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Madeline, how about you? How'd you do?
Oh, you all are so fast.
Yeah, and your
Nice.
rectangle got wider, which is really interesting too. Like it's almost like set in a square, which I'm
Yeah.
into. The design, I used to be kind of against designing in squares. And then Instagram came along and I was like forced to take photos like in a square, dimension. And there's a lot of it's really beautiful. And the 45-degree angle can really be emphasized too. A little tip.
I love the square.
Okay, replace pin. I guess Sebastian, I got you, boss.
Nice, worked on that. Very nice.
The really nice balance of values. I like that the whole architecture from the sky below has been addressed, has been toned. And it really makes that sky feel ephemeral. Awesome. Yeah, see if you can text or email that to me or whatever. Ellie, I got you next.
Okay. I drew my moon using the eraser.
Ooh, yeah. Cool. That looks great too. That looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, those boats are awesome.
There.
I would darken those boats that are lower. And I can't tell if that's real or whether it was just an effect on the on the screen. But the great composition. Yeah, and it looks really nice. I like that the island is like, I love that it's just floating there. There's something very soft and ethereal about that. Okay, I don't know why everybody else isn't showing up, but let's see. I think Janaya I have next. I'm gonna go on here, replace pin. Yes, Janaya. You took up the whole page, yes.
Oh,
I like when the paper is the frame. Now, it's rare that that works out, and when it does, it's like sweet music.
yeah.
Cool. And those shadows really work nicely too. Like the blending of the shadows from the boats. I mean, cool. All right, great. Rock
Yeah,
and roll.
nice.
Jackson, you want to show yours?
Yeah. Here.
Oh, good size, nice paper.
Nice
On the
page.
same page.
you-
Yeah. A little
Hold
higher.
that up a little higher,
Yeah, a little higher.
going up, keep going up, even higher.
There it goes. Okay.
And
Yes.
free.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Your boats feel like they're on the move. It looks like they're sailing,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, nice. Noah, how about you? And then
All right.
Simone.
I don't have a tortillion, so blending is kind of really hard. So I'm kind of behind a little bit, but I took a picture of it. I'm going to finish it at some point, but that's what I have so far.
Okay, hold on, let me replace the pen. Okay, yeah, nice. Oh, great.
Nice.
Yeah, and your
Yeah.
night sky, I mean, if you're gonna go dark on the nights, I mean, it doesn't hurt to go dark on the night sky. It's a night sky for crying out loud. Yeah, so that felt very nocturnal to me, and I love
Yeah,
it.
it came out a little bit darker than I wanted, but
But it works. I mean, it will work, and I'm like glad. I mean, you're it's the darkest one out of the group, and I'm like I wanted to see it. It's almost like I think I felt like that at the bottom too. But it would make more sense to make it around the moon, because then the moon becomes more prominent because it's in higher contrast. All right, cool. Simone, you want to show yours? She might be listening to music. Simone, yes,
There we go.
she came on. I was like, that's a dragon. Great,
Nice.
perfect size. And if you blended that out a little bit more with your finger, it would be like solid gold. Solid gold. All right, is that everybody? Or Dara, how about you?
Dara.
I missed you. Place pin.
Mine's a little bit messy. So.
Yes, yes, I know. I think it's funny how people talk like that. It's super clean and
Yeah.
and you got the rectangle on the paper. I like the scale. It's amazing that you're able to work that big and get it finished. That's a framer. That's a framer. Yeah, that wasn't
These
even
are
the intention.
beautiful.
That wasn't even the intention of the class to get something, clean and finished, but you got it. All right, everybody. It's 11:59. How about that? That's called executive functioning. Perfect
Thank
time.
you,
Functioning.
Trevor.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
everybody. That was fun. I hope you guys
Thank
liked
you
it.
so much, Trevor. Everybody have a great
Thank you.
week.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you.